For those of you who still need to do the retake, I just wanted to go through in detail the type of questions that you're going to see and make sure that we understand what's going on here. So, one of the first things, the first type, they're going to be identifying the type of sequence, whether they're arithmetic or geometric. And for that, the main thing you need to remember is that arithmetic is when you're adding or subtracting the same thing each time. And for geometric, it's when you're multiplying or dividing by the same thing each time. So, for example, everybody got this one right because we know that you're adding 4 each time, right? Plus 4, plus 4. You keep adding the same thing. Adding is arithmetic. Add arithmetic if that helps you. Some of the other ones we had a little more difficulties with, so let's take a look. The next one, generally, people did well on that. But this was a geometric because each time you go from one term to the next, you multiply by 3. That's times 3 times 3. So, how can you determine definitively if you're doing that? One thing you can just do, you're effectively dividing, right? You're dividing 12 over 4, the first two terms, and you're saying that that's equal to 3. In other words, to get from the first term to the second, you multiply by 3. From that point, you just need to check if that's true with all the other ones. So 4 times 3 is 12. Then 12 times 3 is 36. 36 times 3 is 108. And because the pattern holds, it's geometric. Geometric means you multiply by the same thing each time. Let's move on. All right, this next one. Now, first of all, you might notice that the numbers are getting smaller. So effectively here, I'm either subtracting or I'm dividing, right? So in this case, if it's a subtraction, then you're subtracting 256. But here, you're not subtracting 256. You're subtracting 128. So it cannot be an arithmetic. You're not subtracting the same thing each time. So let's try our other alternative, which is it's a geometric. So if I do 512 divided by 256, you can plug this into a calculator if you want to, but you'll see that this is just 1/2. In other words, the number is the one before it's previously. So it's effectively we're multiplying by 1/2, which is the same thing as dividing by 2. 512 divided by 2 is 256. 256 divided by 2 is 128. Divided by 2 is 64. Divided by 2 is 36. Divided by 2 is 16. Because that pattern holds, the division pattern holds, it's a geometric sequence. The next one is actually neither, and this kind of fooled a lot of people. Because, let's look at this. So first, it looks like arithmetic, right? Because here you add 10. Then later you add 20. So that 17 plus 10 is 27, plus 20 is 47. Then it goes plus 10 again. Okay. Then it goes plus 20. So it's this kind of back and forth adding pattern. It is neither arithmetic because I'm not adding the same thing each time, nor is it geometric because I'm not multiplying by the same thing anymore, but each time. So therefore, it is neither. So if it's a pattern that doesn't fit, if you can't find one thing where you just add or multiply by the same thing each time to get the next term, then the answer has to be neither. All right. There's one more. This last one was arithmetic. I think you were just subtracting 5 each time. Onward. Okay. So the other type of thing you'll need to do is to use the formula to find out some distant term. So not just like the next term, but one that goes down the road. So given in our arithmetic sequence, it starts with 800. So 800 is the starting point. And then it has a common difference of -4. That means you keep subtracting 4, subtracting 4. And how many times do you do that to get from the first to the 60th? Well, to get from the first term, which is 800, to the 60th, you're going to subtract 4 a total of 60 minus 1, or 59 times, right? From 1 to 60, you have to go through 59 different iterations, 59 numbers, 59 minus 4s. So therefore, that's basically all you have to do. You take this number and you do -1 and you multiply it by this number. This is the formula for an arithmetic sequence, and I did a whole video about that. So the answer, where this 564 comes from, it's going to be 59 times -4 plus 800. And you could just plug that into your calculator and you'll see that work. So you do the 59, you multiply by -4, that's going to give you a negative number, and you can add that to 800 and you get 564. Okay. All right, this time we have a geometric sequence. This one's a little bit trickier because the geometric ones change fast because you keep multiplying by the same thing over and over again. And you keep doing that, it changes very quickly. So, okay, so we start with 7, and we have a common ratio of 2. So you start with 7, and you keep multiplying it by 2. How many times do you multiply it by 2? Well, you multiply it by 2, not 6 times, but 1 less than 6 times. You get from term 1 to term 6. You go 5 steps. So this is 6 minus 1. So it's equal to 7 times 2 to the 5th power. Usually when I give you these geometric ones, I don't give you as big of numbers because they change really quickly. All right, so 2 to the 5th power. You can just put that in your calculator. Generally, there's like a little button that's like x to the y. You put the first one in, and then you press the x to the y button, and you put the second one. Or you can just do it and multiply 2 together 5 times. That gives you, what, 2, 4, 8, 16. So the 4th power is 16. The 5th power, therefore, is 32. Oop. Sorry about that. I did not mean to move the page. Where were we? Okay, 32. So it's 32 times 7. 32 times 7. And plug it in your calculator if you don't believe me. 32 times 7 is 224. I don't know how many of you are still with me, but let's just look at one more of these. By the way, you can look at all the answers to these, but I'm just going to go through in this kind of detail one more. All right, onward. Geometric sequence starts with 65,536. That's a big number, but it's going to get small quickly because the common ratio is 1/2. That means I keep multiplying by 1/2. Or in other words, I keep dividing by 2. Keep multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So this is going to be 6, 5, 536 times 1/2 to the 8 minus 1, or the 7th power. Remember, it's 8 minus 1. Then again, you would put that in your calculator. So it's basically 2 to the 7th power that you end up dividing by. And it's going to be something like 6, 5, 536 divided by 128. And that's going to give you 512. So that's how that works. Hopefully that helps. That's what I'm asking you to do on the retake. So I went through these examples in detail. You can look at these as you're doing it. Go back and look at the original work that I shared with you. I know you guys can do it. I just want to see some passable effort so we can get that under our belts and move on to the next thing. But that's the general concept. You use a formula, and it's always going to involve one less than the term you're going to. It's going to be the number of times you're either adding or multiplying to get that given term. Thank you, and hope that helps.